Welcome to an hourly session, which I'm sure will be the most informative and educational of the day, to discuss a Commonwealth of post-Brexit opportunity and building wealth through relationships. I've just hot-footed from the West End. It took me over 2.5 hours in a cab. I gave the bill to Tony here. He won't pay it, so I could leave half an hour early as my revenge, but I don't think I will. My name is Jonathan Metliss. I'm the second from the left. I chair a law firm, Axiom DWFM, and my claim to fame, other than the fact that I've been sued personally by quite a few people, is that I built up a law firm called S.J. Berwin, which you may have come across in the 80s, 90s, whose major client was the British Land Company, which owns Broadgate, Meadowhall Shopping Centre in Yorkshire, and these were all deals that I was involved in. And I say that with great pride and great pleasure. So the order of events for the next hour is that I'll introduce the speakers. They'll say a few words about themselves. I'm sure that Tony will say a lot of words about himself because he's the organizer of this event. And I'm going to pose one particular question. They're going to, each of them hopefully will respond, and then we're going to open the floor to questions. And when you do ask a question, could you please speak loudly enough and also say whom you are, unless you're somewhere from the east. And anyway, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Anyway, and I lost my voice because I did actually go to Chelsea on Sunday, which was the unethical derby. And the Russians beat the Saudis, but there we are. But the Saudis look as though they're going to buy Chelsea. So, in no order of priority, although Tony told me to mention him first, this is Tony Gimple, who is going to say a few words about himself.
I've said a few words about myself on more than one occasion, but one of the founders and owners of Globe Invest, and we're here today, to really speak about the opportunities that exist. Now that we're out of the EU, and in particular, how making money, doing good, and helping those who can't help themselves are mutually compatible in the short, medium, and long term. That will do.
All right. Russell?
Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Russell Bahar. I'm Director of Springad Consultancy, founder of the Asian Jewish Business Network, and recently the co-founder with Steve Wayne from Benjamin Stevens of Agent Recruit. My part of being here, we've got a few Agent Recruit members and Benjamin Stevens at the back there. So my involvement of this today is to talk more about business relationships between the companies and how it's been going on over the last few years and where we see that going.
Lolly Ramiol is on the far right, who welcomed me very warmly when I arrived. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hi, I'm Lolly Ramlal. I'm co-founder and director
it's not working.
Globe Invest Ventures also. Can you hear it now?
I don't think your microphone's working.
Okay. I'm also director on several other companies, but what I'm passionate about is investing and diversifying. And it's all about growing wealth, and we're trying to do that through relationships because that's been missing for a while in building wealth. So we formed a partnership in India, which we're growing. So it's all about building wealth through relationships with Globe Invest.
So on my far left is Peter Ibb, who runs a business called Bluetown, whose major business activity is spreading the internet to less advanced economies. But he'll say a few more words than that.
Thank you, Jonathan. So, good afternoon.
Can you hear?
How's the sound? Okay? Better? Good afternoon, everybody.
I have to shout.
As Jonathan mentioned, I'm Peter Ibb. I'm the CEO of a company called Bluetown. We are working exactly with the theme of this session, which is about creating wealth through relationships. But what we're aiming at is the poorest people of the planet. We're working in India and in Africa, basically building infrastructure that will get people connected with a price they can afford. We are here because we're currently scaling the company, and we are seeking funds for that scaling round.
Carsten, you want to say a few words?
Yeah,
but you work together, so it should be the same.
We work together, so hopefully I'll say I'm working with the same things. So, but thank you for being here. My first time here since Denmark played England in the semi-final last year. So nice to be back. So in the same company, building relations with other companies, with people, having worked more than 20 years in the telco industry, with Nokia for more than 10 years, which was also about connecting people. So basically through technology, also creating relationships and building strong businesses together. Thank you.
So just posing a question, although something occurred to me, that Denmark, being a full member of the European Union, yes, let me ask you a question on that. How do you see business between, I don't know whether any of you want to do business with Denmark, but it's actually nice, not a bad place. And they got a royal family that actually keeps stum. But anyway, do you want to say something a bit about, if you can, about Denmark and the United Kingdom and business you do post-Brexit, or?
Yeah, basically on our side, we are focusing very much on third world countries. So this is about connecting people in Tanzania, in Ghana, in India, in Mozambique, in Rwanda. So as such, we're not focusing on the European or the UK market. But what we in the past have been doing is spending quite a lot of time with institutions in the UK, like CDC, that is engaged in the same activities as we are. But that is to the extent that we've been working with you guys.
I don't know if you want to...
Well, I can add to it that in that sense, our businesses haven't changed that much in relation to Brexit and the EU. But in particular, we are seeing that relations means more now after the Brexit. That we have to build stronger relations also to UK people that we cooperate with, because things are not as smooth or automatic, if you like, as it was before. So in that sense, yeah.
Right, so just before my colleagues on the right, I'm just going to pose, I mean, you all know what's going on in the world. Presumably you all read the newspapers or watch Sky TV. And of course, before this conflict, globalization was being promoted as if it was the be-all and end-all of entrepreneurial commercial life. It sort of came to a bit of a halt in 2008 with the banking crisis, but cross-border activity the world over, the internet, so on and so forth, was very much the popular thing. And with this current situation, you read the newspapers, the editorials, globalization is a bit of a stop on it at the moment. So, Lolly, at the end, how do you see post-Brexit, and in the context of what's going on, how do you promote, because that's what you do, global, how do you promote opportunities cross-border?
Well, that's a very good question. Thank you for asking it.
That's all right.
So, post-Brexit, everyone knows about post-Brexit. What's happening in India, we obviously don't know. And India is a country that's growing, that has been growing steadily for a while. It has deregulated a lot of the sort of structures or things that held them back before. And that's what's in their favor now. The opportunities that are coming out from India also is superb opportunities like Bluetown, for example, and what they're doing, the social impact that it will have, and the type of returns one can make it and to join these sort of ventures. Also, with India, what I found was relationships was very, very key. We had to find the right partner to form this relationship with. And now that we found him, it was possible now to create Globe Invest Ventures and to take it further than what it is. In terms of what's happening around the world and how that in fact, there's always opportunities. In fact, in lots of disasters, always opportunities come forward. So I believe that this is the right place now for the opportunities to take place. We generally, when we look at investing, we also look long-term rather than short-term. So while there's short-term sort of pain now with the sort of conflict that is happening and the energy crisis that we're having and so forth, but there's always opportunities there, and we have to keep growing our wealth to take care of these opportunities, to take advantage of them, and also to outstrip inflation, because inflation is obviously what erodes our wealth over a period of time. So.
I should point out, if you can't hear, I think my microphone's working, but I think the others may be a bit dodgy, but you can speak to any of us after the hour is over. I'm going to leave Russell to the end because he likes talking about networking, and I'm just going to. So Tony, your business is promoting international deals, cooperation, and holding shows like this.
Well, the shows we'll be looking at will be either later this year or into next, but it will be overseas. We're looking at putting together a range of events in Mumbai, Delhi and Bangalore in either late 22 or preferably early 23. But the real point of Globe Invest, and that's why we've got the guys from Bluetown here, is to, so Globe Invest is a boutique. We are here to put in place the right funding deals, the right partnerships, almost like a specialist mutual bank. So we'll broker the deals, we'll help find the sites, we'll do the due deal, we'll make sure that everyone passes the highest standards and that there is a real social impact on their investment. So take the current housing crisis. You've got refugee schemes, you've got social housing, the Ukraine thing is blowing up literally, and it's those areas where you can make sure that where you're investing as an individual, either working with local authorities or working out in India or the Indian diaspora, investing back home or vice versa, that the purposes are good. So we're trying to avoid, if you like, the contentious issues, and we're looking for proper either senior debt, pension funding, equity funding, to get the two communities working very closely together, so it brings the nations, both commercially, physically, into one space, which has been left open for too many years. I mean, if you look at the guys of what Bluetown have been up to, you can really see how much of a need there is, not just because of difficult to reach territories, but for the simple fact is, if people can't afford to subscribe to an internet service, yet all of the infrastructure is there, and you've got the expertise, just how difficult is it to bring those people into the economy? So the show side to one side, the current crises to one side, we've got the opportunity as a collective to make sure that the people who were previously left out can now be part of society, which is the ultimate part of the human condition.
I just wanted to. Is this off?
No, it's on.
It's on. Oh, that's better. This was a statement that was sent to me to read out, which I'm going to read out because it actually confirms what you were saying. If you live, work, invest, own a business, and hold your assets in the same country of your citizenship, you're putting all of your eggs in one basket. You're making a high-stake bet that everything in that one country is going to be okay. All it would take is for the economy to tank, a natural disaster to hit, or the political system to go into turmoil, and you could lose everything, your money, your assets, and possibly even your freedom. And without getting too political, it's quite interesting because I did act, this is a personal thing, hold it against me or not, I did look after a Russian oligarch who was the mayor of Moscow, who fell out with Putin. I could never get hold of him, which was very good for him because he never wanted to pay my fees. And he was always on a plane because he was always on the run. But the fact is, people, many entrepreneurs, many investors have invested in that one Russian economy. And sadly for them, they've been caught short. Not their business, it's the way of the world. And this point that's being made is really about spreading your risk. But of course, at the end of the day, you have to find the right environment in which to invest. Which moves me on very conveniently to Russell, who likes talking even more than I do. Russell built up the Asian Jewish Business Network. I've supported him from the beginning, and he's built up a very effective and meaningful organization which links both the Asian community and the Jewish community in this country. So you might want to say a few words. I know you were up all night preparing your speech.
Of course, what I do. No, I think, Jonathan's right. I think, the purpose of, bringing people together is to network. And I think we've seen that specifically over the last couple of years due to COVID, that networking has been, not just a necessity, but, a must for everybody. We've also had the time to be able to network closer together with people. Why? Because we've had the use of internet and we've had the use of Zoom, which we would have taken for granted, but we've used that to our best ability where we couldn't meet people face to face. So what did we do? We got online, built better relationships. The purpose of our network, and everyone is free to attend and anyone can join. But our purpose of the network was to bring two communities that is known that both communities punch way above their weight in business. And that is the Jewish community and that is the Asian community. And if we look at the corporate world, banking, property, finance, and so on, we are all in that business. And if we're not, we are connected to it in some way or some form. We know someone that's involved in investments. We know that somebody's involved in property. And since we've launched this back in 2019, we've managed to host, two very large shows. We've managed to have a membership with over 80 companies and work with, companies like law firms like Axiom Stone, property companies like, Benjamin Stevens, and also Globe Invest as well, which is where you and I met, Tony, a couple of years ago, really. And, we've managed to build Better Trade. And it's purely because of the networking that goes on behind the doors. So I'll take questions afterwards if anyone wants, but, ultimately, if you're in this room and you're here, why are we here? What's the purpose of us to be here? Are we here because we want to pick up some free merchandise? Or are we here to actually make business and build Better Trade? I know why I'm here. I know why the rest of the people on this panel are here. And ultimately, that's what our aim is to do, is to build Better Trade. And we can do it. We've managed to do London. We're working, very hard to build London and our network. We've recently just launched into Manchester as well. And ultimately, our focus is to go outside of the UK, whether that be France or, could that be Italy or who knows? Well, maybe we could do something in India at some point as well. So that's really what we do. And like I said, networking is key. It's a must. It's a necessity. And we all have to do it.
Open.
You wanted to say something then?
The
point I was going to make is that we've had 2 years of relative discomfort with the pandemic, all being at home. I made the odd trip to Waitrose, which was pretty dangerous actually, where I live down in Brighton. And the networking, which Russell is talking about, really came to an end for 2 years. I mean, you had your events on Zoom.
We took everything to Zoom and did whatever we could do with that technology.
I started a real estate lunch on the internet. We've had 9, I think, during the pandemic, with over 100 attendees, but it was all on Zoom. You know, nobody could touch anybody or look at them in the face. You couldn't see anybody smiling. Very important to smile, you know. Who's smiling? You know, it makes you feel that much better. You smile, the whole world smiles with you, I can tell you. So an event like this, we're trying to get back to normal with people being together, approaching each other, talking about opportunities. And as my late father used to say, nothing is ever wasted. And our Danish friends here, Christian Eriksen supporters, are going to say a few words of how they network in Africa and how they build up their connections there. And as you know, Africa, sorry, I'm talking too much now. Africa is interesting because there's big Chinese influence in Africa. Rwanda, Central Africa, all parts of Africa is very strong Chinese economic interest. So we'd like to see the Danes fight the Chinese, yes?
Yeah, you could say so. Well, what do we do in Africa? First of all, I can comment to the fact that you mentioned the thing of not betting on one country. So that's definitely not our plan either. So we have learned our lessons in Africa as well. We were once in Tanzania, and from one election to the other, the business climate changed, and for foreign companies, it became very difficult. So we withdraw from Africa, or from Tanzania, but it's now betting on more countries in Africa right now, mainly Ghana. What we're doing to also, if you like, compete also with the Chinese interests there, is basically to, well, as we see it in comparison to the Chinese way of doing it, is more like bulldozing in and take the money and go out again and do the projects, whereas we team up and take a long-lasting, sustainable approach. So teaming up with the locals, creating local employment and basing our business on local people rather than importing, if you like, our own. I don't know what you want to add, Peter.
No, just adding to that, the social part of doing business is a key thing in Africa. So as soon as people can see that you contribute to the societies, you help creating jobs, you create future for families because their kids can get access to education material, maybe Zoom at some point. It just makes a tremendous difference, and I think our approach compared to what we see from some Chinese vendors is that they typically do the infrastructure project, then they go out, and then the system has to kind of take care of itself. We do it as a 360-degree business, and we stay there on the long term. Then just adding to that, another aspect of what we're doing is to team up with some of the other big companies or institutions that want to do what we're doing. So we have strong partnerships with UN entities. We have a very tight partnership with Microsoft, for instance, that has the same ambition of getting more people connected to the internet because, first of all, it's a good social engagement. The other aspect is that if you get people connected to the internet, then Microsoft longer term has more customers to offer their services to. So trying to combine the things in one go.
Yeah. So Tony mentioned just moving continents. Tony mentioned prospective conferences in India. You've obviously taken a very bullish view of either the internal Indian market or external, or...
No, we've taken a view of the market. There is huge amounts of trade to be done throughout the world, but in particular, where there's an emerging middle class, where the economies are starting to grow very, very quickly, but where you've also got, the second language is the new lingua franca, well, the Roman Empire, and then you have the Commonwealth. It's putting it back to those people where you've got that common shared interest. So it's trade both ways, but trade with a purpose. It's not just about making the money. It's about encouraging people to get on that entrepreneurial bandwagon, if you like, and learn and add to what we're already doing, as people, survival. So, why, and enough of us talking, what's in it for you? You know, apart from us asking you to be in the room today, perhaps as a favour, there has to be some interest. So let's ask a few questions. Right.
Before that, he runs the show, I'm the chairman. So
I run this show, not this show.
But we're good friends, it's all right. So I just wanted to ask the audience, a bit of audience participation, how many of you actually work for a business or have a business involved in transborder activity? Well, that's a... So if I may... Oh, I got half a hand there. I don't know whether you wanted to go home or something, or anyway. So let's ask the gentleman there. So where are you active overseas? You don't mind me saying. Right. So the gentleman said North America, Hong Kong, and South Africa. So he keeps the airlines busy. And what actually do you do? It's all right, I can hear you, so I'll just repeat. Right, so that's a technology business. There was some, I saw two hands towards the back. I don't know if anybody else wants to mention what they do overseas. There's a gentleman at the back. Now I can't hear you. He's coming to the front. Oh, did you? Okay. UK India. That's you, UK India. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah. And there was somebody else. I'm going to put three people on the spot now because I'm in the position to. Benjamin Stevens. There we go. I got your attention. Do you look after Indian investors in real estate in the UK? What do you say? Not much. Okay. Well, if you want to buy real estate in North London, see, I'm giving you a plug. You always say give you a plug. Go to Benjamin Stevens. But it's quite clear. Sorry, you asked something before. Now
Yeah, no, that's okay. You know, looking at okay, so there's a number of people here from the subcontinent. There's a few here, yeah, born in the subcontinent. There's a few here, born here, second, third generation. Is it important to you to be able to still do business with old home, new home, and if so, why do you want to? Anyone want to add in at that point? Oh, come on, guys, we only exist for you. Yep. Put in both camps. So could you just bear with me a sec? Can we get some mics for the...
You need a roving mic, yeah.
It's like... Thought you guys were meant to be on this.
Lady from Singapore.
Thank you.
Testing, yeah, perfect. So yeah, exactly. It's more important for us to gain that new perspective of those markets and seeing what's working there and maybe attempting things here, because I think sometimes we're quite far back in certain approaches in the UK. It's what I guess I've seen in certain markets. So it's just having those relationships across borders and taking the positives from those markets and bringing it here as well.
Okay. So it's really the best of both worlds.
Exactly, yeah.
Fine. So somebody else from either way, really don't mind. Guru, Gora, not fussed. Oh, come on, guys. Bavinda.
Yeah, so I think the main point here is technology transfer.
Okay.
That's the strength of Britain. Now, if you look at India and the growth there, if you're looking at infrastructure or maritime,
Yeah.
or things like fintech, India needs a lot of technology. I think therein lies the strength, in addition to goods and services. And the statistic is 800 billion of goods are exported from India as opposed to 5 trillion from China.
Wow.
And that's a huge opportunity. So, and the Indian government, as you know, is working with UK IBC and all the big stakeholders in the UK. And I think that's the driver of the opportunity.
Yeah. Okay.
Russell,
Where's he gone?
Russell, have you got anything to...
No, I mean, I think, the purpose of this is obviously about, as I mentioned earlier, about building better trade between not just communities, but countries as well. And, the UK, India, Israel for that matter as well. Israel have managed to gain, some fantastic trade over the last couple of years with the UAE, etc., and that will go from strength to strength. They already have very, very good relationships with India. The property market, is I think will always be an investment, an ongoing investment, whether it be in the UK, India, or anywhere else. And I think we need to continue to, organisations or companies like Global Invest, etc., to allow us to do that. Needs to keep afloat, and obviously the voices need to be heard as well.
All right. So
Lolly, do you want to add to anything Tony has said?
Yeah, I think from just the investing point of view, that investing itself is quite a daunting sort of proposition. For people that don't generally invest or just starting off investing, it's obviously quite complicated in itself. What is right? What's the right investment for me? What will work best for me? And then taking it further to outside the country, to a country like India, it becomes even more daunting. And but to grow one's wealth, one has to continuously look at what's the best way to do it and how to do it. And hence India provides that opportunity for that. And that's why Globe Invest came about. It was all about creating that platform for people to trust people to do that for them on their behalf. That was pure the reason for it, because there's just so much, there's so much that people can do themselves. I mean, the internet now is a wonderful thing and there's plenty of information, but how much of that information is useful and truthful? So it's hard to base it on that. And the growth prospects coming out of India with the technology, with the development in fintech, in healthcare especially, I mean, it's just fantastic. It's just growing phenomenally. And it comes with a low cost base. So it just makes sense. It also then diversifies one's portfolio out of the UK into another country, which creates then the diversification part of it. So I always like what Jonathan mentioned about having all eggs in one basket. I didn't. So even when COVID hit, I had a portfolio that was well outside the country and in the country, but in all different sort of things, in movies, in shipping, in trucking, in fintech,
Not really on this one.
in burial plots, I mean, in all sorts. So it just makes sense then to do that, because we never knew, no one expected COVID. No one knew that the whole world would stop. But it's how you protect and how you sort of look at your investments and take that long-term view of what is right for you and how does it fit into your strategy. And those type of questions, it needs to be asked at some point. I mean, we need to...
Alex.
Got a lady.
I work in Kenya, and I just wondered how you cope with your dealing with some of the African countries and other countries when it comes to corruption. I mean, I work with a charity, and sometimes I just can't believe the kind of things that are going on with corruption. And I just wondered how you get round those sorts of things when you're dealing with in different countries.
So I don't know if you heard the question, which is dealing with corruption. You mentioned Africa. There's a bit of corruption in this part of the world as well, by the way. But anyway, let's not go there. So I don't know, would you like to give your view on that?
Yeah, definitely. In the countries we operate, for sure, there's more of that. It is more or less daily life for people there. But as a company working with big companies and big associations and governmentals, we can't afford that to happen on our end at all. So there's basically patience, and then basically working with the governmental people from the top down and not bottom up, because bottom up you end up being involved in these things. We know that from others, but taking an approach of working with the right people from the top levels, together with embassies and so forth, so you get the right entrances to working with these countries, then you can get through it. That's without being involved.
Did you hear that, or was the... Okay.
Yeah, but if I'm not mistaken, you'll tell me if I'm wrong, is one of the functions of Global Invest is to guide you through all those pitfalls.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm plugging Global Invest, why not? It's their event. You might want to comment on that.
Yeah. Corruption is endemic in life. Whether it's first world, second world, third world, here, London, Kenya, anywhere you go, somebody, once they get in power, if they're not there for the right reasons, they're there to enrich themselves. It's understanding how the rules of the game operate, and through exercising influence, rather than taking a big stick, changing its colour to the carrot, the orange carrot, to educate people that corruption actually ceases to help. It contributes more to the problem than solves it. The only difference between a carrot and a stick is its colour and which end you're holding at the time. So on one person, it may look like corruption. On the other, to another, it's a way of doing business until you educate them. So it is softly catchy monkey at times. You just have to play the game and get the right people doing it for the right reasons, and change comes.
I mean, there is an interesting point, actually, if you're following the news. This country has always held itself out to be corruption-free, with the Financial Services Act, when it was first introduced in the 90s, so on and so forth. But the reality is, and this is the press vogue at the moment, is this country's been the best acceptor of dirty money. Bearing in mind the Russian situation, but that's being spread around. So we look at Africa, we look at other parts of the world. We're not so guilty-free, I don't think. What's your charity? Children to go to school, which is strange in a way that in this day and age, 2022, one needs to promote children going to school, because that's a sort of a basic thing, isn't it? It should be. So, has anybody got anything they'd like to raise? The floor's, the gentleman, the one who flies to Hong Kong, America, and South Africa.
Thank you. My question sort of relates into these things, and that is, do you feel that, with talking about the eradication of poverty and making people's lives better, do you feel that that's best achieved through private enterprise than through, say, government social programs?
So, government can only go so far. Ultimately, people have to want change, desire change, and private enterprise can really speed things along. But it's how you do it. You've got to get government on board, because without that, there's all sorts of problems. But if people don't want to change, and if private business doesn't want to invest, then you've got some real issues. But it has to be a public-private relationship, real cooperation, otherwise nothing changes. I mean, the guys, here, big corporates, found themselves suddenly on the wrong end of the corporate rationalisation, came into the real world, applied a lot of what you'd learned, what you'd done before. On the other hand, suddenly found, whoops, the big corporate world isn't necessarily, the rules aren't easily translated. How have you guys dealt with it? You've seen it on both sides, well, you've seen it on the three sides. Public, corporate, private, actually let's add the fourth side to it, the end users. How have you coped with it?
Yeah, it was a bit difficult to follow the talks here. The sound is really bad. So what was the question, Tony?
Well, the question was, is it a government issue or is it a business issue? How do you cope with, or who's actually responsible, government or private business?
Or what?
Making it fairer, opening up the opportunities for people, the end users, the people who need it most.
Yeah, at least to me in our experience, it's a very strong combination. You need both ends. We're working in the poorest areas of the world, and even for us with low-cost solutions that are very cheap to install, cheap to operate, it's still very hard to make a sustainable business because the purchase power and the population density is low in these areas, and you need a certain amount of people with a certain amount of money to make a sustainable business. So in these very poor areas, our approach here is to bring in subsidies from NGOs, from governments, from UN entities in a period of 3 to 5 years, because during that time, the connectivity will create wealth and growth in the societies. You will see jobs coming. You'll start to be able to educate people in a better way. And then at some point, it becomes sustainable. But you need to kickstart the development with a combination of private corporations and subsidies to make it work. That's our experience.
Right, well, literally you've got it, from the guys who've been on the ground a lot longer than us. It is a combination of government, the people who need it, so you've got the subsidy and you've got all the business experience, almost subsidising your own business in order to deliver what's needed. So it's literally in it together.
So when you're doing business in South Africa, which is an area I did a lot of business in, and South Africans were leaving South Africa both before Mandela and after coming to the UK, because I saw that as an important source of business for a lawyer in London. But when you go to South Africa, for example, incentives, you get it. I mean, countries provide incentives, tax incentives and otherwise. So I don't know what your experience of local tax regimes are.
My personal experience in any country which couldn't be described as Western is that it's almost always on the individual to do all of it themselves. Every business that I've been involved in, every place I've been involved in so far, in my experience, which I'll admit isn't massively broad, but my experience is that it's always been the individual has to come up with all of the stuff themselves. They're not being supported in really any way, whereas there are more schemes of that nature in Western nations.
Okay.
So I was going to ask Tony.
Yeah.
To the extent there's interest in transacting business cross-border, otherwise you wouldn't be sitting here. How does Globe Invest help people, direct people?
Okay.
How do you lead people through that process?
Ultimately, the only thing that we sell, we do, is that which we know and you don't. So it's absolutely critical to understand your experience, your background, how you got where you got, what you want to do now, and where you want to go and why. From there, we will help plug the gaps. It will literally be an end-to-end handhold to work out what ventures you need, what funding you need, what projects, how much experience you've got, and whatever else needs to be brought to the table. But it's literally taking you through all of the steps. But you need to have some experience, either as an ultra high net worth individual or as a family office, or already have a degree of contact in the markets that you want to invest in. You can't just do it from a cold standing start. If you want to do it from a cold standing start, unless you are rich beyond the dreams of avarice, are thoroughly bored, or want to pass the hat round and lose a lot of other people's money, you're going to have problems no matter who or what you are, no matter who or what we are and how we're going to help you, or try to. You've got to have a fundamental interest in order for us to be an experience, in order for us to help plug those gaps. These guys here, yes, they've got a good cause, but they're doing it based on their experience and the people who are going to benefit from experience and dealing with corporations, people and government, which is not the easiest thing in the world. And they've got even far more patience than I have. A lot of people have said, well, why don't you go into politics, Tony? I think I'd probably end up having to get Jonathan or someone to defend me for wanting to commit mass murder. I just don't have the patience for it. And it'd be the same as you trying to ask us for help where you've got no experience in going into another market and not the patience to learn how to fill the gaps. Okay, we seem to be probably going off message here and a bit off piste. And apologies for that, and it was a degree last moment to get the space of the day. And the two guys flying in at last moment, a day trip from Denmark. Can anyone put some lyrics to that? That would make a very good new anthem. Meanwhile, let's take a couple more questions from you guys, if you have them. Based upon if you want to work and make money and do some good at the same time in initially India, and then from there moving out Africa, Central America, wherever, and see if we can answer them today, and then come and see us on the stand and work out whether it's right for you to do.
I'm a great believer in audience participation. So put your hand up if you think that Brexit was a good economic move for the United Kingdom.
Is that all? Good God, how we won the day was a miracle then.
I don't think Boris Johnson would be too happy coming here. That was 3. So on that basis, put your hand up if you believe that Brexit was bad for the United Kingdom in terms of trade. Well, just a slight majority. What I don't understand, and I said this to Tony before, is that Australia existed before Brexit, India existed before Brexit, so why weren't we trying to push those markets in any event whilst we were members of the European Union? But I think that psychologically, that being out of the European Union puts a pressure on you to find new markets, and I think that by and large those new markets are quite, enthusiastic to have you there. And you can now buy Anchor butter from New Zealand at half the price because you had the EU tariffs before. Denmark, this is a bit like the Eurovision Song Contest. Denmark, what's your view on Britain having left the European Union? Do you think it's a good idea for Denmark, a bad idea, or you don't lose sleep over it?
No, lots of opinions in Denmark about it. I guess most of the Danes, we are a small country, small population, and is used to having to connect and use other countries to strive and grow. So I guess most Danes are very much in favor of the EU because what is the alternative? And based on that starting point, there's a lot of confusion why Britain chose to leave. And I guess especially now with Ukraine and everybody seeing that you need the coalitions to cope with the problems of the world, maybe it's even more visible that at least for Danes, we need to stick to the group and solve this together. I think that's the main thing in Denmark.
So, Russell, I don't know if you've got anything to... are you a Brexit man? You voted in the referendum, I know that.
I've been in and out with my view on it, to be honest, but too late.
So have you changed your view?
I think we've all changed our view over the period of the last years. I think we all have.
So what did you... Can you tell people what you voted? It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I at the start I was very much... I was an out, and then I was decided against it. But I did vote out.
And now, if there was a referendum tomorrow?
No, I wouldn't have voted out.
Dolly?
Really? Yeah, I mean, I've seen my wealth go up post-Brexit. So I think there's short-term pain but long-term gain. That's what I think.
Yeah. Well, all I know is I told my children that I was going to vote for out because I wasn't very happy with Neil Kinnock's wife being an EU commissioner and getting paid I don't know how much. And I voted out quite dramatically, and I think that if there was a referendum tomorrow, I wouldn't. I'd change my mind. I would have changed my mind. But anyway, there we are. So I don't know whether any parting shots before we bring this to an end. Lolly, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, just thank everyone for listening and partaking today and asking your questions and finding out. I mean, it's all about learning and growing, and I think that's why we're all here, is to grow our wealth, our income, our businesses, and so forth. So, you know, it's all about that. So, you know, keep that journey alive. Just keep growing, keep learning, keep growing your wealth. So ultimately, that's what's going to do everything. So,
Okay.
Russell, you want to say anything?
No, just sort of echo on Lolly, really. I think, you know, we need to continue to do more. We need to work more with each other. You know, it is about building our wealth, but building our relationships. You know, my personal view is without relationships, you can't build your wealth. You know, you need those relationships around you. It's tough, it's hard. There is enough business to go around, whether it be in this country or outside of this country. There is enough business. And just keep working on the business relationships that you've got and to get more as well.
Last word from Denmark. Where did you come in the Eurovision Song Contest? Can you remember? Well, I know where Britain came. They didn't get 1 point.
We're doing slightly better.
It could be the same.
Yeah. As a finale, before you...
No, just appreciate the opportunity coming here. Thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure.
Well, from a personal point of view, I want to thank Russell and Tony for my taxi fare from the West End. Very kind of them. And I just wanted to thank each of them. It's not easy talking to an audience of this size, especially with all the noise outside. I think everybody's done very, very well. But just three business, directions, ideas that my late father, who ran the British Land Company, taught me was one, nothing is ever wasted. So you're here today, you've got an eminent panel, an eminent lawyer with an eminent law firm. If you want to talk law or business law, I'm here, everybody else on the panel. There's always a ticket. So even though Chelsea aren't selling tickets, you'll always get one. And there was a full crowd last Sunday. And lastly, if you're going to do something, JDI, just do it. Get on with it. Don't dilly-dally. Make a decision. And if it's wrong, you'll find out. And if it's right, you'll be happy. Anyway, thank you all very much for coming and for listening, and I hope we've got you come away with some good thoughts and ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you.